Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to hashtag One With You, the PLDT Enterprise Virtual Industry Forum for the Mindanao region. I'm Sarah de Guzman from PLDT Enterprise, and I'm truly honored to be your host for this afternoon. At this point, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all the viewers who are tuned in. Thank you for joining us in this session. Well, you are all in for a treat as we will be tackling relevant data and updates courtesy of our keynote presenters from Global Data and PLDT Enterprise. Also, this afternoon, we're very privileged to have with us our distinguished roster of panelists who will then share key insights and learnings on how they're coping with the current crisis situation, as well as how they were able to mitigate the negative impact of COVID-19 in their respective industries. Lastly, we'll tackle the role of technology as we now enter the new future of work. So for our viewers who are tuned in, feel free to key your questions and suggestions via our chat box. So I'm just gonna give you a quick reminders for our session this afternoon. For uninterrupted viewing experience, make sure you have a stable internet connection. Feel free to use any device to view the virtual event, and for better appreciation, turn up the volume or use your headphones. And now, to officially start the program, our first presenter is a highly respected financial analyst based in Sydney, Australia, whose focus study areas include retail banking and wealth management market in the Asia Pacific region. The team he leads focuses on identifying desirable consumer segments, growth niches, the mass affluent, and trends affecting the retail banking space in the Asia Pacific. He has highly been involved in the large-scale benchmarking projects, and some of his recent topics of research included a close look at the wealth management market in Malaysia, Indonesia, and Singapore. And now, here to share with us the latest data on the impact of the coronavirus on the global economic landscape with the focus on the Asia Pacific region to help local industries thrive amid this crisis. Please let us all welcome on screen Global Data's Head of Content for Asia Pacific, Mr. Andrew Haslett. Hello, Andrew. Nice to have you.
Hello. Great to be here. Thanks for having us. So yes, as was mentioned, I'm going to be going running down basically a quick overview of the impact that the COVID-19 crisis has had on the global economy, and give a general overview of some of the sectors we're monitoring, and which obviously have a big impact on how it's all going to play out. So first off, COVID-19 has directly and drastically impacted all the world's top economies, with more than 3 million cases, obviously being the key milestone that we've had this week, beginning of the week. So that's a huge step. These are a lot of the indicators that we're looking at and that we gauge in terms of how we're looking at the impact on the economy. Obviously, cases per million being a particularly important one, the fatality rate, unfortunately, but also counterbalancing that, the stabilization programs put into place, and how effective they are as well. Generally speaking, I think the key takeout here is basically that GDP growth itself in most of the world is going down. Really, only China among leading economies is expected to grow now, and that's a big change, really. Rather quite concerning, actually. So next up, looking at the major markets and major financial markets that we're monitoring as kind of leading indicators, really, as to where the economy might go. So on the screen here is just us tracking and plotting a few of the major markets, as well as crude oils. So what you saw, obviously, March was a disaster for the financial markets. Really, it was all over the place, up, down, mostly down, but it's come back up recently. In particular, there's been a good, strong recovery in the last couple of days around some optimism around maybe treatments and such. One of the key indicators that we're looking at in particular, though, and it's a little bit worrying at times, it's quite volatile as well, is the crude oil. That's the highlight line at the bottom there. So Crude oil is really important for us because it gives us kind of a sense as to the energy needs of a growing or shrinking economy, right? Even though we're diversifying away from oil and gas as fuels for the economy, they're still hugely important, and we can look and see what the demand for that is and the price of oil as a good indicator there. So the crashing of the oil price to negative territory was definitely not a welcome indicator there, but it has recovered, and that's an important one going forward. Although the kind of drifting down towards the end of there that I've highlighted, obviously a little bit of pessimism for the market. So, looking on to the next slide there, active job vacancies plummeting. So one of the key things about this recession really has been the very quick uptick in unemployment. We've been tracking this quite closely since the numbers started to come in. The active jobs are the red line there. And you can see the change overall in the markets that we're monitoring. Almost a quarter of the jobs, active jobs that we see posted, have actually been taken out of the market. And that's a huge change from just a few months ago. Even in the last few days, we're seeing about 2% of jobs drifting out of the market, and that's hugely concerning overall. The mounting unemployment has more than anything in what's concerning the banking sector and other sectors as well, as it has really direct implications for the ability for them to operate and the credit profile of their client bases. So moving on to the actual kind of recession look out there, there's a general consensus of a global recession. What we're looking at right now and what we've been modeling, and this is fresh as of Monday's data, is a decline of about 2.3% overall. So that's really quite a negative figure, and just really been driven by the major economies of the world. So you can see that's what I'm plotted right there. Consensus for negative, 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 except for China with a little bit of eking out some growth there. And I think we just really need to remember that the global financial crisis resulted in a contraction of just over 0.8% for the global economy. And in a good scenario this time around, we're looking at roughly a negative 3%. So that's hugely concerning. Just do it for a little bit of a summary of what's happening there. Obviously, major stock markets and financial markets quite volatile still. The oil price, something for us to monitor, I think, quite aggressively. One of the few upward rays of light in the market there really is that governments are responding aggressively, and we do expect them to respond aggressively in the recession period to dig us out of that hole. So right now we're still in crisis, still in lockdown of various forms. But once the economy can be stimulated again, we do expect the governments to step in on there. So one of the key things to note about the economic impact this time around is that it's been so widespread. There are no hidden sources of growth. In the global financial crisis, there was that really kind of famous saying, Shanghai, Mumbai, Dubai, or goodbye. And that's really because there was still growth in those markets, and it was about pivoting to those growth markets. Well, that's not the case these times. All of those markets are in some stage of crisis or recession now. So, and on that sunny note, we're going to talk about the COVID impact on a couple of the key sectors globally. So first off, we just want to look at the public sector overall, and obviously there's been a huge ramp up in terms of spending by the government in general. But I really want to focus in on some of the key bits, which is around investments for long-term productivity of the public sector. And what we're seeing in this chart here, it's a UK public sector index that we track, and I just wanted to give it as a kind of an example because they put out good numbers early on, so we can use it to kind of give us a guide as to what's going to happen in the market once other markets actually can report their figures. So you see at the beginning of the year there was a growing gap between what was done in terms of procurement. This is technology procurement in the market from last year, which was the green line, to this year, which is the red line. So there's a growing gap there, and that's really centered in the areas around long-term projects, and overall efficiency gains for the market. And that's quite concerning. You can see that it is ticking up back again, but a lot of that spending is really short-term crisis spending, which is not necessarily going to improve the overall efficiency of the sector going forward. So looking forward to the next slide in the banking, financial, and insurance areas, we can see there has been a big hit across the region in terms of lending, and that's really coming into play in a big way, with a lot of previously buoyant markets seeing a crash in terms of their overall lending volumes. Asia Pacific, I gotta say though, is going to be weathering this a lot better than what we're seeing in other markets though. So just hopefully some rays of sunshine there, and the recovery in lending volumes and balances outstanding in 2021, which is what we're calling for, on all lines of business, will be quite dramatic and mostly most kind of prominent in terms of credit cards. So that's kind of an interesting one. I think not necessarily seen in other markets. On the flip side of things, in terms of the assets and money that our banks and whatnot are money, managing for us, obviously not a great year for equities and mutual funds. Fortunately, though, those play a smaller role in the Asia Pacific market than they do in, let's say, the North American market, where there's been a severe contraction in household savings. So we expect there to be, I guess, a little bit more of a steady kind of flow in terms of the region around here. And we have to go through quite a few here. I'm just going to recap quickly. So 2020 did see a hit to equity and fund holders. And definitely something that was more pronounced in other markets, I'd say, than in Asia Pacific. But there's definitely a lot of the pain in Asia Pacific will have been centered on the private banking and private wealth side of things, as they had greater exposure to equity, commodities, and property such. Now, looking at another kind of important sector, obviously pretty crucial during this crisis, is the retail sector, in which in our mind really has been hit. Probably like the third hardest of all the sectors that we monitor. The major markets, the major retail markets of the world have been negatively impacted, almost in succession, from China, Europe to the U.S. And another market that actually concerns us and that we don't think has been fully experiencing this crisis so far is actually India. There's a great potential there for something to go pear-shaped as well. So. As you can see, there has been a succession across westward, essentially. But if we look to China, we'll see what China can tell us about where the retail market is going to be going. So when we look at year-on-year growth for China, we actually see that we still anticipate that there'll be some growth in the market. Obviously, a lot lower than what we are originally forecast for the market, but there's still some bounce up. And the reason why that is the case is that they are coming out of their lockdowns a lot earlier. They have actually come out of the lockdown a lot earlier, and there's the return to normal, or at least the new normal. Still with a lot of social distancing, that has allowed them to, or will allow them to rack up some gains there. Unlike the other European and North American markets, where we're still seeing quite a dramatic downward momentum. So we all need to think about how and what we're buying and whether that will be the case going forward. Obviously, there's been a very uneven impact in the retail sector as well. Certain lines of business, food, grocery, quite a bit of bounce up in terms of buying of essentials, whereas a lot of other key markets like health and beauty, home, and clothing, footwear have seen a trending down. There's going to be no snapback in non-essential spending, unfortunately. As we come out of this crisis, we're going to be going straight into a recession. And really, there's a strategic threat to a lot of retailers and restaurateurs out there that they're going to have to consider quite carefully their capex and such going forward. Now moving to travel and tourism, arguably the most negatively impacted sector of the economy that we watch. Unfortunately, it's pretty grim throughout. And just as a kind of a overall view of it, there are very few bright spots here. Long term, there will be a recovery. People still want to travel and still want to see beautiful locations. But there is a big wave of consolidation coming across almost every single part of the market, whether it's in the airlines, hoteling, you name it. There'll be some consolidation coming. Next, looking at the second most impacted, negatively impacted area, the healthcare sector, so the pharma and the medical. Once again, there has been huge impacts, not all necessarily negative in terms of the coronavirus. Obviously, there's a lot of research going and money going into the research for a cure or effective treatments. And that's definitely good. But you have to understand that this is actually having quite a disruptive effect on the normal development of drugs and techniques and devices for the medical market. So that's hugely disruptive in terms of the long-term strategy of a lot of these players in the markets, whether it's hospitals or big pharma companies. So even when things do return to a degree of normalcy after hopefully a vaccine, there will be a lingering impact in the healthcare sector because obviously once there's a vaccine, it needs to be rolled out in a large way for COVID to be fully dealt with. So and obviously the effect will be most lingering where they have to treat such things. So we expect there to be the most lingering impact on this sector. Looking at the subsectors of the pharma, there is also once again a little bit of unevenness there. Drug developers obviously getting a lot of contracts and money thrown at them to develop a cure or a vaccine or effective treatment, but on almost every other aspect of the healthcare field, whether it's providers, insurers, or payers, if it's government agency, negative impact there. So sure, there's big wads of cash coming towards the healthcare sector, but it's not the kind that actually drive the long-term profits and sustainability of the healthcare sector. Next up, looking at the IT outsourcing. Very few of the big IT outsourcing companies have been well positioned to deal with this particular outbreak. One of the main things that's been a particularly challenge is the contact centers. The way most contact centers had previously been set up, hugely open to contagion and virus, and so that has to be a concern. So as you can see, we score a lot of these players, and the coronavirus, almost all of them are scoring quite lowly. So adapting to the new normal for many of these BPO providers will mean massive investments in biosecurity, routine testing, extreme hygiene measures, and cleaning that require considerable capex. And for them to adapt quite quickly. Those who do adapt quite quickly should actually thrive, and it will be actually a key selling point for themselves going forward. So it's been quite a rapid breeze through the various different sectors, but thanks for following along, and I hope you found it useful.
Thank you so much, Andrew. Those were very good data you've presented. I'm very, very curious how our roster of panelists will react to your presentation later on. Thank you again, Andrew.
Thank you.
All right, for our next speaker, he has been with the PLDT Group for 15 years and managed key areas such as the Greater Metro Manila, NCR Business Market, Visayas, and currently he manages the enterprise business of Mindanao. He is currently part of the PLDT Enterprise Leadership Team. And to share with us some insights on the industries in Mindanao, as well as the solutions in this industry can leverage to help mitigate the negative impact of the pandemic, please welcome the Corporate Relationship Management Head of PLDT Enterprise, Mr. Ben Melasa.
Thank you, Sarah. Good afternoon. PLDT Enterprise, the business-to-business arm and leading ICT service provider, is reaffirming its commitment to supporting the government and the businesses in its continuity efforts amidst the persistent effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. Since this crisis started, we have extended assistance and support like provisioning of local and national hotlines for COVID-19 related reporting. We've also provided telco-grade Wi-Fi internet for government and and COVID-19 centers, we've activated hotlines for telemedicine and provide free SMS messaging platforms for LGUs and hospitals. We have given prepaid load cards to both patients and doctors, as well as hundreds of mobile phone units. We've helped enable social distancing app as a mitigation platform, staysafe.ph, for national and local government units. For rapid pass use, we provided more than about 500 units of mobile phones for vehicle tracking. We have also delivered medical equipments like X-rays, PPEs, alcohol masks to frontliners. As of April 27, based on Department of Health data, Mindanao has about 176 confirmed cases on COVID-19. And these have indeed affected Mindanao's economy, which is mainly driven by retail, agriculture, government, and also the rising BPO industry. Sharing some facts and figures for Mindanao, one-third of Mindanao's land area is devoted to agriculture, with labor force accounting to one-third of employment. Mindanao contributes about 30 to 40% of the food requirement of the country. Northern Mindanao is considered the business and industrial cluster, with manufacturing industries thriving and growing, while Southern Mindanao is major in agriculture and logistics as a major industry contributor. Based on a recent study of Business World, manufacturing will take the biggest hit amongst industry, while agriculture and logistics is at the least affected industry. What are the sentiments and feedback of local business community during the pandemic? And what are their operational challenges based on what we see in Mindanao now and businesses face during the COVID-19 crisis? The answers may vary depending on what industry they belong. It may be manufacturing, retail, BPO, travel and tourism, etc. But in general, business operations are struggling the most with connectivity on the initial stages of the community quarantine. This is followed by mobility challenges and financial concerns. Business owners now are thinking of ways on how to continue operations and reaching out to customers digitally and online. Everybody is adjusting to the changes demanded by the situation, like including the new sanitation and social distancing measures. But business owners are also coming up with relevant services on top of their existing. There is also a question on how to mitigate the challenges on logistics and supplies. For those people who are put on work from home arrangement, the suddenness of implementing work from home made many employees resort to using personal laptops or personal devices to be used to connect to the internet, but using their home subscription, but this is being used for work. Overall, businesses are adjusting and prioritizing efforts to support remote work setups, providing their mobility tools, improving networks, and beefing up IT operations and infra. Based on a recent study, email has emerged as a top communication tool, but instant messaging apps have become one of the top communication channels. There's also emerging use of business collaboration application, just like what we're using now, Microsoft Teams. On the other hand, micro, small, and medium enterprises, or MSMEs, tend to use instant messaging like Telegram, Messenger, as well as social media for business use. We have seen a soar in the number of Facebook and Instagram business transactions in the last few weeks. Indeed, going digital is key to moving forward. The new normal has been a buzzword lately. Allow me to share the stages of the new normal based on an ICT perspective. For the immediate stage that we have experienced for the last 45 days is mainly driven by connectivity, collaboration, and infra challenges. The second stage on the near term, which we are already transitioning into, The transition to normalcy should be included. That includes network IT assessment, including cybersecurity, cloud and data center migration, online digital payment, e-commerce, mobile apps, just to name a few. And finally, the longer term of the new ways of working to include outsourcing, automation, Internet of Things, and analytics. In the new normal, what are the most pressing needs of business? In what other aspects of business that needs assistance? So businesses now, apart from continuous operations, companies will remain cautious, optimistic, and are seeing additional benefits from telecommuting, such as improved work-life balance. The new normal of business will progress from connectivity to business continuity with cybersecurity and finally digital collaboration. With work from home arrangement, internet connection, both fixed and mobile plans of workforce, coupled with the right tools on digital collaboration and cybersecurity is most vital to business. New work setups becomes the new normal. In the past month, PLDT Enterprise has also announced various promotions to ease the effects of COVID-19 pandemic, such as payment extensions, free PLDT Fiber B Speed Boost, smart mobile unlimited data SIM plans at 1 month contract, free trials of collaboration tools such as Cisco WebEx, EPLDT's Microsoft Teams, and Google Suite powered by IPC. The ease of doing business online should be the top priority as business move to the future. PLDT Enterprise is one with you in ensuring that businesses will continue to operate amidst any crisis. We are here to help in the journey to the new normal, and the future of work is now. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sir Ben. I couldn't agree with you more that you've highlighted the importance of investing in various technologies, specifically for the industries in the Mindanao region. And truly, the future of work is now. Thank you so much, Sir Ben, and to Andrew. And now we move on to the next part of the program with our reactors. At this point, I'd like to introduce our esteemed roster of panelists who are live with us this afternoon and will be joining in this insight sharing segment. First up, we have the Honorable Mayor Oscar Moreno of the City Mayor of Cagayan de Oro City. Good afternoon, Mayor.
Hi, good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone.
Hi, Mayor. Yes, your thoughts, please, on the presentation of Andrew, who shared with us the global impact of the pandemic, as well as, Sir Ben has mentioned the role of technology as we now enter this new future of work.
Yeah, well, of course, the first presentation certainly gave us a glimpse of the economic situation in Asia Pacific, and also, of course, given that the Philippines is but a small player in the world of big business, we would certainly be affected by the slowdown, and very certainly economic slumps in our major trading partners would affect the Philippines. You know, the last economic meltdown that took place was in 2008. Remember when with the collapse of the collateral, the housing projects in the U.S., and certainly many banks were affected worldwide. Now, the Philippines at the time was not seriously affected because we were not as sophisticated as they were. sometimes sophistication also brings you to more risks. And the Philippines, we are not quite as advanced as the developed economies. For instance, securitization was not yet in vogue here in the Philippines at that time. No? So the original lenders of these housing loans held on to these loans up to their maturity dates. Unlike in the US, when the developers would securitize and turn around. No? But anyway, we are certainly affected and uh, quite quite sad that this pandemic happened, and certainly there will be an impact, and we'll just have to brace up and strengthen our fundamentals. And Mindanao is essentially agricultural, so I think we can just harness our asset base. Talking about Cagayan de Oro and Northern Mindanao, we are the gateway to Mindanao from the north. No? So as the economy hopefully opens up, there will be some activities in this part of Mindanao, and hopefully our role as a trading center, etc., given our location, would be restored as the normalcy is attained once again, or the new normal will have a definitive form. Now, on Ben's presentation, of course, the new normal now is technology, and so we need to catch up. And even here in Cagayan de Oro, in this issue, we have this. We initiated this move of conducting surveillance program, a house-to-house campaign to determine the health conditions of the households. No. And some of our friends from the academe and even from DOST have seen the value of the data that our city health office has gathered over these past several weeks. No? And I think soon there will be some sort of an application that will become very handy in looking at, for instance, the public health situation of a particular place using this application. And certainly we are excited with that. No? So telehealth and so on, teleconferencing is now the new normal. And so like I said earlier, I need to adjust. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Mayor. I must say, let's keep our hopes up and we will get through this together.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. And now we move on to our next reactor. We have with us the President and CEO of Next BPO Solutions Incorporated and President of the BPO Association of Davao Incorporated, Mr. Xavier Eric D. Manalastas.
Yes, good afternoon, and thank you for having me in your forum. Yeah, if there's one insight that this pandemic has taught us, it is that none of us were prepared. Both the government and the business sectors were caught flat-footed. We have all our BCPs in place in the IT BPM industry, and this is a part of our minimum requirements by the clients. Our BCP is constantly reviewed. We address fire, we address earthquake, we address flood, terrorism, but not pandemics. We do annual and fire and earthquake drills, but not pandemic drills. So here in Davao City, the BPO Association have agreed, although not formally, on a safe haven initiative to protect our employees in any event of terrorist attack or other disasters that may hit the city. Again, we did not factor in pandemics. So how did we react as an industry? First, our workforce has been reduced to 60%. That would be high at 60%. More than half of these will be working from home. And then compliance to government guidelines also mean we have to take in more costs to house and support our employees. Also, some of our clients, especially in the SME sector, have scaled down, if not canceled, contracts. And some roles could not be filled. Many employees have now gone on furlough. So we are facing these challenges. And among the other challenges that we are currently facing also is that our government and our health sector's unpreparedness actually means this quarantine might last longer. It might not end sooner. We are resigned to that fact already. We're preparing for that. Telco services are also not as reliable or available in many areas. This is due to surge of use and the lack of infrastructure. There is just not enough coverage and wireless and wireline services for everyone. And of course, we are now experiencing the lack of or the inaccessibility of government assistance, which highly impact the SMEs, many of which have already suspended operations. Now, moving forward, the ITBPM will calibrate operations under this new normal, especially post-ECQ. This will include the following. Work from anywhere will be the norm. It will be a priority. This means only those who cannot work from home will be working on site. Now, government partnership will also be vital in fast-tracking solutions that will address, among others, the policies to fast-track improvement of internet access, especially in fully saturated and underserved areas. Most SMEs will also need access to financing with easy long-term and low interest rates. As you would know, most SMEs may not qualify for the traditional secured loans from the banks or financing institutions. Life and business will not be the same as we know it, but if we put together, we might not just be able to make it, but also create or discover new opportunities as we move forward. That's it, and thank you.
Thank you so much, Sir Eric. We'll get back to you on your sentiments when we move on to the question and answer program. I've taken note of your what are the current struggles of the BPO industry in the region. Thank you so much, Sir Eric.
Thank you.
And now for our final reactor, the head of Zamboanga City Medical Center Task Force COVID-19 and the head of Public Health Unit and Public Affairs and Customer Care Unit ZCMC, Dr. Afdal Kunting. Hi,
Hello.
Doc.
Hello, good afternoon, Sarah. Thank
Yes,
you
Doc.
for
Yes,
having
Doc.
me.
Yes, sir. Yes, Doc. Your thoughts, please, on the two presentations earlier.
Yeah, I will have to agree with what Eric said kanina. We were totally unprepared for this pandemic. Even if we had warning signs before, but we thought this would just go away. However, as you know now, it has spread throughout the world. There's a saying in the healthcare system, health is wealth. But opposite to that is the concept that without wealth, there is no health. And we are afraid right now, as the economy is going on a downturn, it will affect so much the capability of our patients not to access healthcare. And at the same time, it's also important to consider that if people are not spending, government would also not be able to get the taxes that we need to spend for health. So it's going to affect us so much. And most importantly, for us, because we have spent so much money for COVID-19, a lot of our long-term projects have been sort of shut down. Like, for example, in our hospital right now, we're supposed to build several buildings because we need to increase capacity. But unfortunately, we have to move the money over to refurbish buildings, get supplies, and ensure that we are prepared. We scramble to prepare for COVID. So the prospects is a little bit grim in terms of in my industry. At the same time, we're not yet talking about the human cost of this. A lot of healthcare workers have been infected, and a lot of doctors have been, about 20 plus doctors have passed away because of this. So the human cost is also very high for us. And you know that as it takes a long time to produce a doctor and a nurse. It takes a long time, and there's a lot of investment there. So the effort for us and the outlook for me, it's quite difficult for us. However, as Filipinos, we always have a strong sense of we're a happy culture, you know, and we find humor and we find happiness in all these little things. So we still maintain our optimism despite the fact, sabi nga nila, Pilipino may puso yan eh. Maligayang, we're a happy people, and there's a belief that this is a big storm. We're so far weathering the storm better than most countries, and hopefully we will do fine in the future.
Thank you so much, Doc. That really lifted up my spirit because I was hearing more of the negative side on how we were coping up with this pandemic. And thank you again, Doc. All right. So at this point, we'll now be officially proceeding to our Q&A segment.
Key in your questions, comments, and suggestions via the chat.
Again, to all our viewers who are tuned in this afternoon, join us and be part of the discussion by keying in your questions via the chat feature. So, again, good afternoon, gentlemen. I'd like to first ask this question to all of you. I would like to address this first question. How you're personally coping up with the situation? How do you remain positive amidst this pandemic? Mayor, get your thoughts on that. How are you coping up in the current situation?
Yeah, of course, with God's blessings, I think our health data are not really that bad. No? Out of the northern Mindanao has a total of 13 positive cases, and of that, there were only 3 from Cagayan de Oro, one of whom has recovered. And here in Northern Mindanao Medical Center, there is only one remaining positive patient from Lanao del Norte. But of course, we have this challenge in that, and a task, I would say. Cagayan de Oro is the host of the COVID referral hospital and the Apex Hospital for Northern Mindanao. And in fact, even including Lanao del Sur, Marawi, SARI cases are also brought to Northern Mindanao Medical Center. I have refrained from issuing the enhanced community quarantine, given the location and the strategic location of Cagayan de Oro and the role of Cagayan de Oro as the trading center. Even during the quarantine period, the port operations continued without the passengers. No? All cargoes from virtually all of Mindanao, with the unimpeded and unhampered transport rule, ended up in Cagayan de Oro for shipment to the Visayas and Luzon. No? And of course, there were some attendant risks to that, but what was important was we sort of, that's why it was very important for us, even if up to now we still do not have the testing capacity. What we did was to come up with this daily briefing since March 13. Together with me would be the director of Northern Mindanao Medical Center, a representative of the Department of Health, and our key doctors from our City Health Office to analyze all the admissions of our referral hospital. To date, from January 31, they have admitted a total of 92. And as soon as the patients are admitted, our City Health Office would already initiate contact testing. we would not wait for results of testing to come out. Right upon the moment of admission, the contact tracing procedure is triggered. No? The reason for that was because we were, I thought, in the dark. Hindi namin alam anong nangyayari, and so we needed some data. And I'm happy that Northern Mindanao Medical Center cooperated every day. They would come here for the press briefing, and so we had a running figure. All the admissions, all the deaths, all the tests, positive or negative, and then all the discharges. And then on the other hand, on the City Health Office, we started with the PUIs and PUMs, but then when the 14-day period for those classes had expired, we thought of coming up with this house-to-house campaign. A doctor advised me, because he advised me to take the offensive, to go down house to house and check everybody in the household. And so what we have done was we gathered our health frontliners, the BHW, BNS, and so on. No? And the objective every day is to, I call them the Rituya Army. Siguro Dr. Akdal knows Dr. Rituya here. And I call them the Rituya Army. They go to every household and determine if there are ILI and so on. No? And then following that group would be the group from the health center in order to treat those that have been found to have ILI. Now, I think we have by far out of a total of, let's say, about 160,000 households for the entire city, we have covered probably around 80,000 already. That's a good number. But, you know, Xavier University has learned about this, and what we are now pursuing is for Xavier University to come up with an application, and probably this is where you guys can come in, an application that would make use of the data gathered by this surveillance group, and would then allow us to look at various angles using the data and applying the applications and so on. No? So hopefully, we would have a better feel, and hopefully we could make some guided and considered approaches. No? But of course, just like Zamboanga, we're waiting for the testing capacity. Kami dito sa upper half of Mindanao, we share the same handicap. We don't have testing capacities. And but I hope in the next 3 to 4 weeks, testing capacities will be in place. Zamboanga, in Cagayan de Oro, and hopefully also in Caraga region. No? So, of course, I like the optimism of Dr. Akdal, no? And the ability to smile. No, this is really one Filipino trait that we have learned from our forefathers, and we have learned to be more resilient, the indomitable spirit, and that is what I see in that smile. Thank you.
I completely agree, Mayor Moreno, and I really saludo po kami sa inyo for your door-to-door initiative, what you call the Rituya Army. And speaking of healthcare, I'd like to pose this question to Dr. Afdal. Doc, how are you? Thank you for squeezing in this schedule, squeezing in this session despite your busy schedule. How are you coping up, sir? And I know you're very, very positive.
Yeah, we're doing fine. As you know, tayo mga Filipino, we're a spiritual people, no? So Pilipino, may ano yan sa Diyos eh. We are very spiritual people. We always pray. And I think that's one of the things that keeps us, doing well. Despite the fact na marami tayong issues, marami tayong problems, there's a lot of problems that has come out from this in terms of communication, talking to other stakeholders. The whole caboodle is here. Another
Correct.
thing,
Yeah.
yeah.
Doc, if I may ask, knock on wood, should another pandemic arise, will there be policies, guidelines, or regulations that will be implemented in the members of the healthcare industry?
Well, definitely, there would be many, many changes. In fact, sabi nila, COVID-19 is a game changer in the way that we practice medicine. I've been practicing medicine for about 20 years now. And now if you look at medicine and from previously, it's totally different. It's totally different. So I guess some of the recommendations would be we would take more effort in infection control. Control, like for example in droplet infection or airborne infection. So yung mga sinasabi nating PPEs, which is a very common buzzword now, PPEs and masks, they would be everywhere. You would see them in the emergency rooms and even in the regular clinics, you would be seeing them. Normally, we don't usually wear PPEs or masks in our clinics, no, but now you don't know. And in the future, we don't know as well. So basically, you will see a lot of PPEs being worn. Another thing that might be happening often, and for me, it's a good thing. Hand washing will be taught more often. And a lot of people will be doing a lot more hand washing, using more alcohol, hand sanitizers. So siguro mag-i-improve ang ating hygiene for Filipinos. That is a good thing for me in the sense. No? Because this pandemic, although it's bad, it also has things that we will improve on. Another issue that I think would happen is there would be more frequent disinfections in our hospitals. Regular disinfection kasi meron niya.
I think we lost Doc. We'll get back to Doc later on. Sir Ben, I'd like to pose this question to you. What technologies have been most relevant to the businesses in the Mindanao region? Again, addressing the sentiments of Sir Eric earlier, specific to the BPO industry. What can we do in PLDT Enterprise, and how we influence reinventing their business models after the ECQ has been lifted?
Yeah. Thank you, Sarah. In the initial stages of the pandemic, the crisis, we've actually supported the BPO industry with everybody was scrambling also to really support each industry, and it just happened that we were caught into surprise also on this. So right now we have relevant technologies that that we are developing, and digital collaboration is one. We've come up with free use of Microsoft Teams, for example, that has really helped business somehow cope up with this, with the business continuity plan of business. No? And the first part was really mainly driven by connectivity challenges, but as we move forward, we are reinventing. So we're advocating here to reinvent ourselves. We have to really reinvent and transition ourselves to the new normal, which is we need to assess processes. I think that should adapt to the new normal, and ICT and network assessment is also a must right now. And considering that everybody's going digital, and not only digital, but everybody's going online. So we in the PLDT group are really, gonna be supporting those industries, and we would like to have that journey with all the industry players on that matter for to go to the new normal. Thank you, Sarah.
Yes, thank you, Sir Ben. We have also with us Sir Eric, who really lined up or itemized the key the key pain points of the BPO industry in the Mindanao region. Also, I'd like to take this opportunity for Sir Ben to answer or address or share his thoughts on how to really address those concerns, Sir Eric. Would you want to raise those concerns again for Sir Ben's reference?
I think, as I mentioned earlier, it will be more on the limitations. There was a surge. I think this was not just like everybody as the telcos. It went beyond the calendar of the rollout of the telcos. There was a surge, sudden surge of the usage of the internet. Suddenly, people are working from home. We have people using Netflix, and it conflicts with the way that they will use this in the industry. And we realize now that the infrastructure we have is not enough. And I think we appreciate the fact that the telcos are doing their part, and we have been calling also on the government like to help us fast track, help the telcos fast track the expansion that they would need to implement to address the connectivity issues, because this will form a part of the new normal. It will be, people will be working anywhere. It's not just from home, but anywhere. So our infrastructure has to be able to support that. And having a separate discussion previously with Ben, I think PLDT is doing also its best to answer this. So that's a good thing.
Thank you, Sir Eric, and thank you, Sir Ben, for again addressing those concerns in a separate discussion. Again, Sir Eric, how does this work from home or work anywhere do for you? How has this impacted you personally?
Well, there's a good and the bad. The
I
good
would
thing.
assume, yes, because some of us really adjusted to this new norm quite well, but others really are in the dark and really can't help but think of the other negative impact of this pandemic. But how are you, sir?
Well, we're doing good. We're fine. Challenges of access, and we all thought that working from home would mean lesser work. And the way it happened is that actually there's more work because suddenly you become available 24/7.
Correct. There's no excuse. There's like you're caught up in traffic. That's not an excuse to be late in a meeting because with just a click of a fingertip, you're there. Correct.
Yes, and then because you're always online, you're expected to answer an email or a concern from a client, and like 24/7. So you have to be online 24/7. So you're in your shorts, you're in your pajamas, but you have to answer calls anyway.
Well, you're not alone, Sir Eric. For the next question, I'd like to address this to Andrew. Hi, Andrew. How's everything there in Australia?
Not bad, actually. We're looking forward to some relaxing of some of the restrictions. So that's really optimistic. Tomorrow we'll be able to see 2 people.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, based on your current study, like the global impact of this pandemic, what's the fastest time that the global economy can recover?
Yeah, so based on what we see in terms of the proposed opening up, which is really what will allow economies to begin to go back into a kind of normal economic cycle, we're looking towards the end of Q3 this year, actually. So before a vaccine, obviously we'll have to the economy will have to go back into a normal mode, but with social distancing of some form, obviously, and restrictions and such. But because we've had such a severe contraction, that will actually result in an economic expansion again, and that's why what we're seeing in the first 2 quarters of the year in terms of contraction is actually going to be less overall in terms of how the economy contracts in 2020 overall, because we'll have a little bit of upward towards the end of the year.
Well, that's good to hear. And Andrew, now we'll be entertaining questions from our chat line. This is addressed to Mayor Oscar Moreno. Hi, Mayor. Someone asked, now, prior to ECQ, we've seen an upward trajectory in terms of the business landscape in the northern Mindanao region. Well, how will the downturn of the economy affect the local government of northern Mindanao, in particular in CDO? Mayor, I think your microphone is on mute. We can't hear you.
Yeah, first of
There.
all, we had always been under the community quarantine, and precisely we did that on purpose uh, as a balancing between health and the economy. I was worried that given the situation in Manila and Luzon, uh, uh, the the effect of the economic impact was really very hard to bear. And I thought that the reason for the enhanced community quarantine, this was my speculation, the reason was that they could not contact trace because there was a sudden surge of positive cases. And if you are not able to do contact tracing, because contact tracing, you identify, you isolate, and then you treat those who are ill, no? And so that's why I relied on the data from our Northern Mindanao Medical Center and our own City Health Office to make up for that blind spot that we have because we don't have a testing capacity. So we just had to settle for something, at least something, anything. So it helped in a way with God's help, and but still we were affected economically. Certainly, a community quarantine, well, not as say. I would not want to use the word bad, no, but not as say acceptable as in terms of compared to an enhanced community quarantine. But really, given also the location of Cagayan de Oro, no, it's in the middle of the upper half of Mindanao, and access from the east to the west and vice versa will have to be through Cagayan de Oro. So that's why my initial move before I issued the community quarantine was to reach out to the provincial government in the hope that we would come up with a harmonized implementation of the checkpoints and the triaging. I don't see eye to eye with the governor of the province here, but I had to reach out, no? Because I thought that if I were to come up with the checkpoints just for Cagayan de Oro alone, I would be dividing the province into two. I would be breaking up the province, and that would cause more harm, not just to the city, but also to the province. And of course, it cannot be denied that Cagayan de Oro and Misamis Oriental are inextricably intertwined. No, you cannot separate one from the other. Cagayan de Oro used to be the capital town of the province, and then it became a city and so on. No? But certainly we had been affected. But of course, the question now is how do we open up, when, and of course, but the basic, fundamental thing that we should never forget is the health data. That's why I am still reluctant to open up beyond where we are now until after the testing equipment would come in, hopefully in the next 2 weeks to 3 weeks. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mayor. And for my last question, I would like to address this to everyone in the panel. Any final message for those industries found in the Mindanao region? Sir Eric, your key takeaways specifically to the BPO industry in Mindanao. Sir Eric, your mic is on mute.
Great. Yeah, we are all learning from this experience. Like none of us are really experts of this one, but these are some of the takeaways that I have, or realizations, as you might call it, from this crisis, especially for those in the IT BPM industry. First, there's a need for us to really update our BCP and it should include the pandemics already. And we should use the different levels and corresponding guidelines based on the current and the developing situation. There's also a need for us in the industry to really realign our processes from hiring to onboarding and to workforce management to include this new normal. This will include work from home or work anywhere already as an option for employees on day one. And we have been hit by the pandemic badly because of our service level agreement, so that has to be calibrated also. So that it will include being flexible in our billing structure with with our clients when something like this hits us. And also, the industry will need to calibrate the employee policies and our engagement programs. Imagine people working, you don't see them. They say out of sight, out of mind, and that's not the fact that we would like to convey to our employees. So we have to implement a new kind of engagement programs to make them still feel a part of the organization. There's a need also for us to pivot. This might take longer as possible, but we have to pivot. We have to be really ready. AI will play a key role in this business. So the sooner that we will be able to adapt, it will mean more resiliency in the business. And I have people ask me in the industry here, and they're asking about government assistance. I always tell them, look, don't expect to be the priority list. This is not the government does not prepare. So you have to be ready to operate for the next 6 months or at least 1 year without any government assistance. You just have to do what you can. It centers around being able to calibrate, pivot, and then adjust to the situation, and then move forward with a complete, entirely new level of engagement, both with employees and with our clients.
Thank you so much, Sir Eric. And now we move on to Doc. So, Doc, any final message to your colleagues in the healthcare industry in Mindanao?
There's a saying in Tagalog, it's very apt for this time. Pagsubok lang yan, kapatid. It's a big pagsubok, right? But we are a resilient people. We are a people that's strong in character. This is something that's difficult, true, but we will weather this. We will survive, and I'll tell you, we will thrive. Thank you.
I really love the positivity, Doc. Keep it up. To you, Mayor.
Yeah.
Final message to your subordinates.
I think what's really important is teamwork. No, you have to look beyond where you are, and nobody can solve the problem alone. Government would be useless without support of the community, and especially in this issue. I have always been saying, I'm fond of basketball, no? So I've been telling our people that in this war against the virus, the government cannot win this alone. No matter how good the programs may be, no matter how sophisticated equipments might be, we cannot win. The final shot, the winning goal will have to be delivered by the people. The people will have to make that shot. It's the government's role is to encourage the people to cooperate, to support. Situations like stay at home, the people need to support that. Face mask, social distancing. No, and it's very important that the people must act in concert, collectively, because we cannot win over this virus acting individually. We will never win. So that's, I think, what the other message I wanted to say. I hope PLDT Smart can think of ways by which, for instance, contact tracing. How can contact tracing be done more expediently and more instantly using an application? Contact tracing can be a very tedious task. Imagine you have to interview people one after the other and so on. There must be a way by which, for instance, almost everybody now has a cell phone. So sana maging parang diary na. Whoever somebody has gotten in touch with, mag-register na yan so that God forbids may mangyari, then all that we need to do is simply look at the record and already trigger the isolation while it's still early. So there are many things that can be done. I agree atong igsuon sa Zamboanga, si Dr. Ang importante is the indomitable spirit. No? We have had several challenges in the past, and even our forefathers had their own share of problems. And kita karon, this is our task to respond to this challenge. And hopefully we can pass on to future generations a better community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Couldn't agree with you more. We really have to do our part. And now for our last reactor or panelist, Sir Ben, what's your final message for our industries in the Mindanao region?
Okay, I'd like to answer first or give an answer already to the problem of contact tracing of Mayor Moreno. Mayor, we actually have launched already with the help of one of our affiliates or the sister companies, yung staysafe.ph. Actually, we've already started to roll out in Davao. Eric is already on board. The BPO industry in Davao is already on board on the. This is a social distancing, health condition and contact tracing app already, or not app, but it's still a website right now. But you can register via cell phone or smart cell phone. And I post this as a solution also for Zamboanga. Doc Afdal, maybe we can also look at this as a part of the solution that we can help in this pandemic. This is we're giving this for free already, so don't worry. This has no cost at all for all. No? And I think the IATF already made an advisory that this is the official and social distancing contact tracing system that will be used by IATF. IATF. Okay. So with that, I think much has been said. I am truly grateful that everybody was able to give a very good insight on what's happening in the Mindanao region, from Davao to Cagayan de Oro to Zamboanga. So we're basically covering already a big chunk of the geographic area of Mindanao, and we're staying positive, as Dr. Afdal says. We have to really stay positive on this. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you again, Sir Ben, and to our esteemed roster of presenters and panelists, to our viewers who tuned in this afternoon and joined us. On behalf of PLDT Enterprise, thank you all for spending this time with us. This has been hashtag One With You, the PLDT Enterprise Virtual Forum for the Mindanao region. I'm Sarah de Guzman. Stay safe, everyone. Thank you.